One of the things that I've been deeply reflecting on recently is how the non-dual awakening, the non-dual reality, the law of attraction, and quantum physics all work together. So if we look at, say, for example, the law of attraction from an immature perspective, from an egoic perspective, a lot of individuals who are not awake, who are still under the grips of the egoic mind, are running around using the law of attraction just as another way to satisfy their egoic wants and desires. But one of the things that non-duality teaches, or deep spirituality teaches, is seeking first the kingdom of heaven, as Jesus said it, is seeking first to discover reality, to discover truth, to discover a depth beyond ego, beyond our mental mind, beyond our emotional mind, and living from this place of truth. And so the non-dual awakening is an incredible discovery, and it's an incredible way to meet life. And then a deeper awakening is when we become a manifestation of power here on earth. By power, I don't mean in some egotistical way, some arrogant way, or any kind of nonsense like that. But can we manifest our divine power here on earth as co-creators? If it is true that all is one, if it is true that we are divine in our core, in our essence, if it is true that we are divine, in our being, then what would it mean to live as a powerful creator in this world? And these are the types of questions that we begin to ask, as we wake up and we discover that, yes, I am transcendent, I am beyond ego, I'm beyond this, I'm beyond that. That's a wonderful realization. And then when we begin to wake up in the level of our heart and discover a wonderful beauty and intimacy with all of life and all beings, and then when we wake up in a deeper level, in an embodied level, we discover that every aspect of ourself is divine and is not separate from the divinity that rules and that creates this universe. And so if that's actually true, then the invitation becomes, or the inquiry becomes, if God created the universe, is it possible for me to create my life, for me to affect great change in my life? And we're not just doing this just to get a new car, or just to become famous or popular, or whatever it is, or to amass more wealth. We're doing this because we want to express our total divinity, our total autonomy, our total goodness, and affect great change in this world, in our lives. And so we begin to ask this question, this question that once upon a time it could be seen as being extremely arrogant, to ask the question, what would it mean if I were God? What would it mean if I were divine and I co-created reality? What would that mean? And so when we're spiritually awake, it's a much more, how should I say this? It's a safer question to ask than when we're living in our egoic mind. Because when we are in our egoic mind, if we ask the question, what would it mean if I was God? Then the response that we would get would be an egoic response. But from the awakened perspective, and by that I mean from our innate goodness, from our innate humanity, from our innate beauty, and we ask, what would it mean to co-create a new reality? And we begin to work with, what would my life be like? If I discover my innate worthiness, my innate goodness, my innate compassion and love, peace and strength, and what would that look like in my life, my daily life, in my interactions with others? And so we begin to ask these questions. We begin to work with thoughts becoming things. Instead of just transcending our thoughts, instead of just letting go of thoughts, what if we use thought in a powerful way, in a productive way, in a healing way? These are the types of questions that we can begin to ask when we begin to play with this question of, what does it mean to be God? What does it mean to co-create my reality? As you see, we become empowered. We become engaged with life. We become engaged with evolution. And then we discover that our evolution is the very evolution of God in form and matter. And then everything we do, we see, is of the utmost importance. It's a much deeper and different kind of realization than a transcendent realization, which is just, I am the awakened one, and the rest of the world can, just disappear into samsara, or dissolve into whatever. An embodied realization is the discovery that we are in fact the movement of evolution here on earth. And then we discover that we have the supreme responsibility to live to our highest. And to live to our highest, it means we must be deeply embodied, deeply powerful and autonomous beings here on earth, deeply loving and compassionate beings. And it's quite a feat, to step into this world. There seems to come a tremendous amount of power and responsibility when we begin to play with co-creation. But it's something we can begin to play with. It's something that we can begin to try out, and try out from a deep humility, a deep awakened humility, a deep awakened compassion and love. And so this is our invitation, is can we join God in being a creative force of love here on earth? And so this is an exciting time, it's an exciting discovery when we begin to walk into these realms, into this world.